So yesterday we talked about photoshopping in ads and how Dove helped pioneer the movement against digitally altering models. But they're certainly not the only brand that shined light on topics of controversy. Back in 2013, a Cheerios ad started a racist backlash when it featured an interracial family in an ad. And remember a few years back when the most watched Super Bowl ad was Budweiser's Born the Hard Way, which chronicled the founder's journey from struggling immigrant to successful businessman? And of course, the U.S. women's soccer team has become the face of equal pay across the nation. Then there's the Pantene hair care line, which recently announced transgender activist Paris Lees as their new face. Similarly, Gillette released an ad a few weeks back featuring a transgender teen learning how to shave with his father, which comes just months after they put out this ad.
Is this the best a man can get? Is it making the same old excuses?
Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys.
But something finally changed.
Allegations regarding sexual assault and sexual harassment.
But she says
And there will be no going back. Because we believe in the best in men.
They got a good amount of blowback for that one too, but a lot of support as well. So while these issues used to be a third rail for most companies, is it good for business these days? Joining me are Susan Fournier. She's the new dean and the first woman to serve as dean, I should add, at the BU Questrom School of Business. Good to meet you. Thanks for being here. Sandy Lish is principal and co-founder of the PR and marketing firm, the Castle Group. Sandy, it's good to see you too. Can we start with the highest profile person, I think, in the world right now, Megan Rapinoe? Is she somebody who you would think that businesses would want to be the face of the company, or is she too risky because of the effing White House comment that practically everybody on the planet has seen? What's the deal with her?
I don't think you can play the political game without playing the risk card.
Meaning what? You have to take a risk?
You have to take a risk. This is a risk game.
And is someone like Rapinoe, I know there aren't many people like her, is she a risk worth taking for most businesses, or is the potential downside too great here?
I think we would probably agree with this, that you have to make that calculus for whatever business you're in, what market you're in, what you're trying to do.
Everything is a case by case.
And what the fit is, yeah.
Would you tell a client to hire Megan Rapinoe if she was available as their spokesperson, their face?
If she was on brand for them, absolutely. She has a following and she has detractors.
When was the moment, if I was right when I said a minute ago that the conventional wisdom, at least that I remember, was you should shut up and sell, to do a variation of it. When did that change? Who were the first businesses and why which decided we are going to take the risks you talked about a minute ago? When was that moment?
I think it's been building since maybe the 80s, and a lot of it's enabled by technology and the ability to get these messages out. Remember the Dove campaign of Real Beauty?
Yeah, we were just talking about it. Yeah.
Right? Like way back, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when it was like, you don't have to look this beautiful, you can be political. So I think it's been rising, and the culture of consumers right now is to be talking about a political role for companies and brands. That's the big shift, and that's new.
But do they do it, and I know this is it's not monolithic, but do companies do it because they want to be good citizens, or because they want to increase the bottom line, or both? What's the...
It depends on the company. It really does. And sometimes being a good citizen is what increases the bottom line. Sometimes it can be exactly the opposite. So it depends on the company. And we were talking earlier, sometimes it's about just getting attention for your brand because it's such a crowded world out there and memory is so fleeting. They're on to the next story. If you don't do something a little risky or edgy, it's hard to rise above the clutter.
You know, you're both obviously risk takers, and I'm about to argue against risk. There was this, I don't know if you've seen this incredibly beautiful black and white Nike ad, a tribute to the women, obviously, who won this incredible victory. Can we just play maybe 10 seconds of this, and then I want to ask you something about it. Here it is.
I believe that we will make our voices heard, and TV shows will be talking about us every single day and not just once every 4 years.
A little bit later in this thing, there's a kid, I think it is, holding a sign saying equal rights. There's words on the screen saying break every single glass ceiling. And you're going, I was doing exactly what you two are. I'm nodding and agreeing, how beautiful. And then I remember on the radio 3 weeks ago, we talked about the fact that Nike was screwing, essentially, their athletes who were pregnant. as soon as they turn pregnant, they cut off their deals if they decided to be pregnant and have a kid. Isn't the risk colossal if you aren't clean when you do something like colossal, yes?
Colossal. Now, at least Nike has a history going back 40 years of really standing up for different groups. They've been there for blacks. They've been there for women. They've been there for handicapped. So this fits with their zeitgeist. But you're right. Yeah, if you're going to play politics, Larry Fink, chief of BlackRock, right? He kind of threw a gauntlet down on this, and he said the days are over. Corporations are part of society, and we have to make society better. So there is a big trend out there to be okay. I guess we have to wade bravely into this culture.
But you better do research on your own history before you embarrass yourself.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, another concern that I would have is in the wake of this incredible uprising by the employees at Wayfair, not very far from here, when they were concerned about the selling of some bedroom equipment that this local multi-billion-dollar exploding company was selling to a contractor. I think it was in Texas. There were stories about employee activism all over the country. Forget how you affect the consumer and whether he or she is happy with the stances you're taking. You don't need a union anymore. Employees, if they're not happy with what their bosses are doing, could really cause you great damage. That's another huge concern,
It's a huge concern, and younger employees really want to know what the companies they're working for stand for. What is in their soul? What do they represent? And they're going to be quick to mobilize, and they have social media in their hands to do it.
So is there a moral to this? I know generalization is hard, but we have 6 minutes here. Is there a moral to the story that you tell your clients when they're about to wade in, or are there rules of the game you say they should make sure they observe?
Well, one thing I would say is for companies who are watching all of this happen that haven't thought about how it would play out if it was their organization, it's beyond foolish not to start planning for what to do if this is you. But I agree with everything you said. They have to be consistent in their message. They have to be consistent in what they stand for. A lot of it comes back to communication. If you're communicating with your employees around what your ground rules are, where the barriers or parameters are, and they know it and can buy into it, then it won't be as risky.
You want to add something to that list?
Yeah, transparency, governance. What are your policies? I think what we're seeing now is a need to have more transparency around what these beliefs are. And so this is a board level issue. This is risk that it's not, a marketing campaign where the CMO kind of thinks about. It's the board. And who are we selling to? Who aren't we selling to? What do we believe in? What values do we want to put on our sleeve? Do we want to go into this culture war? Do we want to stay back and, maybe be pulled into it by mistake? Do we want to be Gillette? And that's a very high level decision. So I think beyond preparedness, there needs to be agreement around the highest level C-level executives of the organization about what they want to do.
By the way, when you said transparency, hundreds of CEOs passed out at home. I want you to know. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
It's great to meet you. Thanks so much for your time.